Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're cutting through the noise, really digging into a project doing something pretty different in Web3 mass adoption. We're talking about Pi Network.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one, mainly because of the sheer scale, right? Pi Network, started by those Stanford PhDs back in 2019. They built this huge community, tens of millions of pioneers, they call them, with this super simple idea, ecological mobile mining. Like you just press a button once a day on your phone.
Just one button press, yeah. And it created this, well, global user base. Now that community seems poised for a big step. The main news dropped at the Token 2049 conference. Pi Network's founder, Dr. Chengdao Fan, she revealed they're making a serious move into DeFi, decentralized finance.
And this isn't just talk. We're seeing the rollout of core DeFi tools, specifically functionality for a decentralized exchange, a PiDX, also the framework for automated market makers, AMMs, liquidity pools, and crucially, the ability for people to actually create tokens.
Okay, let's unpack that because, hearing DXX, AMM, token creation, it sounds like they just flipped the switch on everything. But the sources we've looked at are really clear. It's a very gradual thing. What's the big caveat we need to highlight right at the start?
Right. The absolute crucial context here is that these new tools, the DAX, the AMM stuff, the token creation, they are only available right now on the Pi testnet. That's key. So people using TestPi, these test tokens, it's all for development, for learning. It's not the live mainnet yet. That's still restricted until they move to the open mainnet phase.
Got it. So our mission for this deep dive then is to figure out, well, what these tools actually mean, why Pi is keeping them in this sort of sandbox for now, and importantly, why they seem so focused on utility as they guide this massive, often crypto newbie audience into the, let's face it, pretty complex world of Web3 finance.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with what having a DX and AMM on the testnet actually let people do, for the developers building things and for the pioneers trying to learn.
Okay. Because for most pioneers, I imagine DX, AMM, liquidity pools, it's DeFi jargon, right? It sounds intimidating. So what can they actually experiment with now?
Well, think of it simply. A DAX, a decentralized exchange, is just a way to swap one crypto for another without needing a middleman, like a bank or a big company like Coinbase. And the AMM, the automated market maker, that's basically the engine, the software, that makes the swap happen automatically.
Right. So instead of matching buyers and sellers in an order book like traditional exchanges.
Exactly. The AMM uses these things called liquidity pools. People lock up pairs of tokens in these pools. And the AMM uses math, basically the ratio of tokens in the pool, to figure out the price for a swap. By putting this on the testnet now, developers and pioneers can actually try it out. They can add test tokens to pools, make swaps, see how prices react, all without real risk.
And the sources we read suggested this isn't just an app someone built on Pi, right? It's deeper than that.
That's a really important point, yeah. The analysis shows these DX and AMM functions are sort of innate, built right into the Pi blockchain protocol itself. Architecturally, that's huge. It means the foundation is there for the community to potentially build multiple DX or AMM interfaces using that core shared logic. It's not just one single exchange.
That's laying the groundwork for some potentially really decentralized stuff down the line. But like you said, most users are used to just tapping a button. So this testnet phase, it feels very much like a mandatory training program almost, a transition zone.
Oh, absolutely. It's 100% an educational and testing ground. And they're really stressing the safety aspect. The network's basically saying, look, we've got millions of people. Many need to get up to speed on DeFi concepts, financial literacy.
Okay.
The testnet gives projects a live but safe place to test things out before they deploy for real. And for pioneers, it's about understanding pools, swaps, the mechanics, before they use actual Pi on the mainnet.
I do wonder, though, does a completely safe testnet environment really prepare you for the Wild West of real DeFi? The volatility, the actual risk. Is there a danger it creates a bit of a false sense of security?
That's a fair question. It's always a challenge with education like this, especially at scale. But I think by using TestPi, test tokens explicitly saying they have zero real value, they remove that biggest immediate fear, losing money. The goal maybe isn't just teaching trading strategies, but the fundamentals. Like how does adding liquidity work? What is impermanent loss in a pool? How does a swap actually happen on chain? It's definitely a measured safety-first approach, trying to build that mass financial literacy carefully.
Yeah, that step-by-step introduction feels necessary for an audience this size. And that deliberate, cautious approach, it leads right into what seems to be Pi Network's core philosophy, this focus on utility over just speculation.
hmm And that focus really shapes the whole testnet strategy and, more importantly, the rules they're planning for the mainnet. I mean, obviously, to swap tokens on a DEX, you need tokens first, right? So developers need to create them. While making test tokens now is easy, the rules for creating real tokens on the mainnet later on, those are going to be the real gatekeepers.
Dr. Fenn really drove this point home at Token 2049, didn't she? What kind of specific rules or guardrails are they planning for mainnet token creation?
Well, the word is that the mainnet rules are being specifically designed to push creators towards building actual utility. They'll likely require token creators to show how their token supports, real-world apps, actual services, things they call enduring products. And crucially, this has to come with a, quote, reasonable plan for how the tokens will be supplied and distributed. It's basically demanding proof of purpose up front.
So it's like a conscious effort from the core team to make sure tokens on Pi aren't just, digital collectibles or pump and dump schemes. But isn't that a massive gamble? I mean, let's be real. A lot of the crypto market, especially lately, runs on pure hype, meme culture, speculation. Can an anti-speculation model actually work at this scale?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's the core tension in their whole model. And what's really striking is how openly anti-meme coin they seem to be.
Yeah.
That really sets them apart.
Right. Tell me more about that distinction. How are they framing it?
Dr. Fan and the team, they're explicitly trying to differentiate Pi tokens from what they termed empty motivational mechanisms, which, let's be honest, sounds like a direct shot in a lot of meme coins. The thinking isn't that meme coins are useless for, say, building community buzz. Clearly, they're very effective at that. But Pi Network seems to view them as fundamentally unsustainable because there's no real underlying utility.
Yeah, if the only value comes from hype and everyone agreeing it has value, once the hype fades, the whole thing can just collapse.
Exactly. Pi's approach seems to be mandating function. Tokens need a reason to exist, tied to something real. Paying for a service in an app, maybe governing part of the ecosystem, something tangible. They're aiming for long-term value, not just a quick speculative flip.
It sounds incredibly ambitious trying to engineer an ecosystem like that, especially with the speed of Web3. But they aren't exactly starting from scratch here. They've got years of infrastructure already built, right? That must help this DeFi rollout.
Oh, absolutely. That's a key advantage. Pi Network has already tackled two massive problems that kill many new Web3 projects: getting users and knowing who they are. Their core KYC, your customer solution, verifies pioneers are real people. So when tokens eventually get distributed or used, it's going to actual humans, not just bots farming rewards. That's huge for fair distribution.
That's actually a massive, often overlooked edge. So many DeFi projects struggle for years, spend fortunes just trying to prove they have real decentralized users. Pi just starts with tens of millions already verified. That must lower the risk for developers hugely.
It really does. Developers get this instant, global, verified community to test with, get feedback from. It's not theoretical. It's a live testbed for apps and token ideas, all happening while the mainnet stays protected.
And it's more than just the user verification, isn't it? They have other pieces in place already, like tools developers can use to build actual business models around their tokens.
Yeah, exactly. They've already got established pieces like the Pi wallet for holding assets securely. Those .pi domain auctions they ran recently, that's about identity branding. There's the Pi advertising network for potential revenue streams, and that ecosystem directory staking feature, which helps with governance and discovering apps. All these components are designed to support, practical uses for tokens and sustainable activity within the network, not just pure trading.
Okay, so if we tie this all together, link it back to the testnet news. A developer right now can mint test tokens. They can plug those into an app they're building for the Pi community, test out liquidity pools using the built-in DEX functions, and they know they're building on top of this existing infrastructure for verification, wallets, maybe even ads down the line.
That's precisely the path they're laying out. By opening up DEX, AMM, and token creation on the testnet, they're giving developers the tools to build sophisticated things. But it's all happening within this framework that demands utility and purpose. They're using Web3 strengths, decentralization, transparency, but coupling it with accountability to get access to that massive user base.
And at the same time, taking the necessary time to bring the pioneers, the users, along for the ride, educating them on DeFi in this controlled, step-by-step way. It's a really interesting mix of mass market simplicity and, well, the kind of structured thinking you'd expect from a project with Stanford roots.
Hmm. It really underscores that they seem to be prioritizing careful preparation and long-term health over just rushing to launch tokens for speculation's sake. They're trying to shift that whole crypto conversation, maybe from what's the price to what does this do?
So what does this all mean for you listening in? Pi Network is leveraging its huge, verified user base to move into core DeFi. That's the big picture. And as it's a big but, they're doing it very deliberately with these strong guardrails focused on utility and putting user education first before real assets are involved.
Yeah, which leads us to a really interesting final thought for you to chew on. If Pi Network actually pulls this off, if they create a thriving ecosystem where utility is required for tokens to exist, how fundamentally could that change what a successful Web3 business model looks like? Could tying tokens tightly to real-world use cases eventually become the dominant model for mass adoption, pushing pure speculation to the fringes? Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought as Pi Network continues down this path towards its open mainnet. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, until next time.